Evening, people, and welcome to this analysis session where we're going to cover the details of the overall analysis and cutoff comparison of the evening slot in CAT 25. We'll go into the detailed cutoff analysis of the third slot, the evening slot, and also do a comparative analysis with the cutoffs that we have seen in the morning slot and evening slot. So essentially, this is going to be a summary session of all the three slots. While we will do a lot of discussion detail about the third slot, we will also do a comparative summary across all the three slots, across all the sections of every slot. All right. So now let's jump in and look at what has happened in the evening slot. Now, in the evening slot, we have, again, all of you know that we have the same structure, right? So this is just information, plain and simple information. But to get in more insights, I would welcome our head of English department, Lakshmi, who will jump into the VARC section and give us more insights. But before we do that, let me tell you folks that there's a lot of action planned for you over the next coming few days about CAT 25. There will be a preparation, OMETs, ZAT is coming up, SNAP is coming up, a lot of live videos will be available to you. So do subscribe to our Time for CAT YouTube channel, subscribe to it, like it, and stay tuned to our CAT analysis page. There is a very, very useful feature, the percentile estimator, that is available to you, using which you can get your estimated percentile range instantaneously, right? So you input your number of attempts and expected accuracy, and you will get your expected percentile range immediately. So let's move over to Lakshmi, who will help us understand the animal called cat, how it behaved in the VRC section. Overall, we know that there is not much of a difference in the paper in terms of the structure, but for the fact that there has been, in terms of difficulty level, there is a surprise in the QA, which we'll hold for a couple of moments before, because we need to now jump into the VRC section, right? So let's now look at the VRC section. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, Ramnath sir. So evening slot, finally it's all done and dusted. Let's look at the VARC section, okay? No major surprises, yes, as Ramnath sir said, you already know by now. Looking at the VARC section in reading comprehension, out of the 4 passages, okay? Let's look at it passage by passage, but before that, an overview. I would say there were 2 difficult passages, okay, this time in the evening slot. One easy passage in terms of readability. We're just looking at the passage alone, readability, and one moderate kind of passage. Okay, I'll go through this in a little detail. So there was one passage on dams. This passage, Ramnath said, was a very easy passage actually.
Okay.
So I hope all the students who took the slot did take this passage.
It's a must attempt passage.
Must attempt passage, especially because the other passages were not so easy to
read.
Right. This was a high school level passage to read, though there were a few difficult words in it, but we could infer it very easily.
Overall, you'll get it contextually.
Absolutely. So it was just about dams and whether, what are the complications and all these things. So the passage was very easy to read. In terms of questions, yes, there were 1 or 2 tricky questions. Okay. As in, there was one question on the keywords that encapsulate the essence of the passage.
Okay.
That could have been a bit tricky because, as usual, all the keywords were in the passage. That's what CAT does every year.
Okay.
That could have been tricky. And there was another one on the meaning of a word. And you had to choose the pair of words which meant the same as this word. And the word was instantation or something like that.
Okay. So you mean to say it's a vocab based question? Would you call it that?
It was a contextual vocabulary. You could easily infer it from the context. Okay. It is not a word that we use. I have forgotten the exact word. It's not a word that we use regularly.
Okay.
But you could easily infer it from the context if you understood. And since the passage was easy, I think if you had the presence of mind to infer it from the context, it was.
And not get scared because of you never come across that word.
That is the tricky part.
Okay.
Okay, so that was this set, but yes, a must-do set, as we just said.
Okay.
Then there was the second passage was on Forest Acts of India.
Okay.
Now, at the face of it, it looked like a very straightforward passage because Forest Act, it is a very concrete subject. But then slowly it started getting into a comparison between a relatively recent Forest Act and an old act that it was based on. And then came how this was related to colonialism.
So multiple things kind of coming in together.
And then from the blue, there was deforestation. So all these things together.
So ecology, colonialism, forestation, legal. Yeah. Okay. Multiple things. Okay.
So it was a layered passage and not very easy to read from that point of view.
Okay.
Absolute terms, yes, Forest Act, but to comprehend it would take a little time and careful reading.
Okay.
And hence the questions were difficult because the idea flow was difficult to trace. No, if you don't get the idea flow,
how do you answer the questions? Yeah.
There were no in-depth critical reasoning kind of questions. But then the problem is all the questions required an overall understanding of there was no very direct detailed kind of
question. Okay. All
so it was a difficult set, we could say. Then comes the set on formalization of ethics. Many students have been coming back saying, what was the set about? Now, the sad part is that it started on a deceptive note, AI. And AI is something that all of you can relate to. So it started with AI.
So students would have thought that, okay, this is AI, this technology could potentially be easy to read. Kind of an approach is what they would have kind of felt, kind of vibe is what the passage would have given them. But then it went into ethics.
Then it went into ethics and again a very, very deeply layered kind of thing. Actually, it was the formula. How do you formalize ethics in the context of AI? But then it went totally beyond AI. There was even utilitarianism and a question based on utilitarianism. And the funny thing is we actually have used this passage in our material, the same.
So one more case of our material making its presence felt in the CAT, where as I've shared with you in the earlier videos, we have a couple of aimcat sets coming in the afternoon slot from aimcat 15 and aimcat 14, and we have a couple of quant questions making their appearance, and this is just from the initial information that we have got about the exam, and now we have direct RC passage straight from our material. Nice.
But the questions were very complex because the passage itself was difficult in terms of reasoning, and then the questions were almost all the questions were critical reasoning based. There was one on assumption, there was the usual except questions, strengthening, weakening. So for an abstract passage to have these kind of questions, so I would say if students wanted to leave one passage, probably, again, that depends on the comfort level, but for most, this would have been the set
difficult.
To read.
And the last set?
The last set, Last set was on memory versus imagination in the context of tribes and tribal art. Now, again, if you are the kind of student who gets scared when you see social sciences, it could have been a little bit of a put off. But otherwise, the good thing about this passage is that it was very, very linear in terms of idea flow. So it was not layered like the other passages.
So which is why the word which is missing out of these two passages is present here, which is moderate. Moderate both for the questions and for the passage.
Internally we had a little bit of debate over that because yes, it is a bit metaphysical. Now that is like the other extreme, Forest Act of India, forest is a very concrete thing, but the passage was layered. Here there was hallucination and there was metaphysics and all these things, but the passage was linear. It was straightforward, simple.
Not too complex to read. While the concept itself is in general kind of abstract, the reading was kind of easy. Because of the way it was presented.
And hence the questions also, there were some relatively direct questions. Since the passage was easy.
So basically those who would not have been put off by the kind of passage it was, would have kind of did well,
at least
scored well.
2 to 3 questions would have been very easy to do is what we feel.
Nice. Alright. So effectively what you're saying is out of the 4, the first passage and the last passage are the 2 kind of must attempt passages in this set, folks. And 2 passages which you could have kind of stayed away from initially and gone through them if you had time after having completed the BA
questions. Of course, in BA there is always a lot of subjectivity. So even among students, I could hear people say, no, that was easier. That could be there.
Yeah, because that will depend on the individual comfort level with the topic or concept. All right. So let's now move on and see what we have in VA.
section, I think, is what brought up the difficulty level of the overall section, Ramnath sir.
Oh, so the
Because,
difficulty level got pushed, meaning the VA questions are difficult.
because normally, even in a difficult slot, like CAT 24 VARC 3, it was the toughest,
The
right?
toughest,
Last year.
yes.
Even in that, there were at least 2 VA questions which were straightforward.
Easy.
Easy.
Must do.
Must do. Now, para formation, take a look and you get the order. Those kind of questions. There was not a single question like that.
Okay.
All of us agreed on that. As in, all the students agreed on that.
Okay.
So, there was not a single question which we could call a cakewalk.
Okay.
There was one sentence placement question which was sort of easy.
So out of the question types, only sentence placement is the moderate one. Everything else has the word difficult attached to it. So that kind of makes it clear that it was not a cakewalk.
And also the questions were very lengthy, especially para summary questions were lengthy. The summary options were lengthy. The passage was lengthy, and there was one para summary passage which was very difficult.
Okay. All right. So overall, the verbal ability is fairly difficult, and it played a major role in lifting the difficulty level up, and therefore, by extension, pulling the cutoffs down.
Okay.
All right.
Even if you did 3 to 4 questions in VA, and let us say 2 passages with a high level of accuracy, I think that would have been.
So you would end up with a good score at this attempt level. All right. So let's now look at the overall summary quickly in terms of comparison with last year. So is it okay to say that is this similar to the toughest slot last year, which I think is again slot 3 last year? So slot 3 last year and slot 3 this year have kind of been toughest across. So when I say toughest, it need not mean that it has been toughest by huge distance. No, toughest meaning last year was X, this year is X plus delta. Or slightly, maybe some people may feel that it would be X minus delta, some bit here and there. So overall, fairly similar to the slot last year. 2 passages, which is what you were saying about earlier. Difficult VA questions made the question section even more tougher. So let's now look at the cutoffs here in the first section for 85 percentile around 20, 95 percentile around 28, 99 percentile around 39, right? So in terms of number of attempts, 15 attempts out of 24. That is around 62, some 2/3 of the paper basically, right? 2/3 of the paper if you attempt with, again, not, you don't need to get everything right. Around 80, 85, 90% accuracy would get you upwards of 99 percentile, all right? So that's what we have in verbal ability. Thank you, Lakshmi. We will now call upon Abhishek Vyas, an MDI Gurgaon alumnus. He is a senior faculty in our quant team in Hyderabad. He will take us through the LRDI section. Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah, so LRDI again, just like the last year, we had 5 sets. So there were 2 sets which were of 5 questions each and 3 of 4 questions each. So if you just go through the sets, so for example, the first set that is presented here, step graph, that is one of the sets which was kind of doable in this slot. So if someone was able to identify that and start with that particular set, would definitely had an advantage over the others.
But I've been told there were 2 graphs in this set which could have been kind of made the
maybe the selection would have been slightly tougher. But that's again, I'm saying, for example, for someone, if this was the first set, or someone was able to identify that, even though the representation is not so easy, but the questions and all in the solving is comparative easier, then I think
so tougher present, meaning the question has been presented to be, let's say, intimidating, but if you see through that and then persist with the set, you would be able to solve it.
That's one. And second is, of course, you would not know that unless you go through the other sets, but in comparison to the others,
yes,
this was definitely a moderate to difficult level set.
Right.
Doable, one of the doable sets that we have here. Now the second set which is written here, pass the buck, which is from LR, logical reasoning. It was a circular arrangement set with a table given. So the table had information about who is passing the buck and how exactly are they doing it. Is it immediate left, immediate right, second to the left, second to the right. Very interesting set. But again, this doesn't look so difficult as well. Like, for example, when you look at the others, for example, the third set that we have here, travelers visiting countries, this was outrightly a difficult set. By look also, and when you get into it, the depth of the set, the logic difficulty, everything is there.
So, but thankfully, can we say that it is thankfully difficult not only to do but also difficult on appearance, so that student could have stayed away from it?
Yes.
Okay.
There was
It is not a
volume
deceptive
of
set.
data.
It is not a deceptive set where it will
No,
just suck you in and burn out all your time.
Correct. That's very, very rightly put. Yes.
Okay.
So actually, you can, the moment you look at it, you will get an idea. Okay, maybe this is a set.
Let me stay away from this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
This, on the other hand, when you read it, when you understand it, little bit, 2-3 minutes, you will understand. Okay, maybe I'll be able to do it.
All right.
One more point, which I was also saying in the previous session, was focus on not solving the entire set, but getting a few questions from each set. For example, here probably one set was difficult. Here one question was difficult. Here maybe again one question was difficult, but the other three were solvable. You were able to get to the answer easily. Now similarly, we'll see for the, like, for example, fifth set that we have here. Here the set was difficult, no doubt, but there was 1 or 2 questions that could have been solved
without solving having cracked the entire set.
You will have to crack a little bit, not entirely.
The kind of a hit and run approach, basically.
Yes,
you get whatever you can and run away from
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
All right.
That would have worked here. Because you cannot do that here. You cannot partially solve it. At least that's what we got to know from students. In those 40 minutes, attempting it partially was not really possible. Same is the case with this fourth set. So basically, these were the sets that students should have stayed away from, right? Because they are time eaters. Definitely time. The other 3 sets that we had, you could have done it partially and still cleared the cutoffs.
All right. Okay. So now let's quickly summarize the section. Overall, a difficult section. So I don't think there is any debate in that. More difficult sets than doable ones. Yes, because you said 2 are kind of doable and the other 3 are not so much. Okay. So let's now significantly tougher than last year's DILR, right? So let's quickly look at the cutoffs in terms of what is it that we have for this section. And 85 percentile at about 12 marks. 12 marks would mean we are saying around 5 attempts with a good accuracy. And on the other extreme, we have 99 percentile at 28 marks, around 12 attempts with good accuracy. Now, 12 attempts would mean 2.5 sets, right? Or let's say if you attempt the 2 5-question sets, which may not be possible because if I remember correctly, one of the 5 sets is a very difficult set. Both the 5-question sets are difficult. I think that's a very key point to note. So which means students who went after the number of questions instead of selecting the question based on its merit, while merit would include the number of questions also, who paid more attention to the number may have taken a hit, right? Because, okay, let me get them as much as possible out of the higher number of questions that a set had may not really have worked in this particular slot, all right? So with that, let's move to the third section, the quant section. So this is the breakup. So what's your take on this section?
So here again, it was arithmetic and algebra heavy. The paper was as expected because this is what has been happening for the past couple of years. Algebra has been gaining some prominence, some importance in the CAT. So that's what continued here also. But one surprise that we saw was several questions coming from numbers as well. Because in the past years, if you look at the papers, there is one question or none. 1 or 0. So this time we had good number of questions.
This time also in the morning slot, a similar distribution. In the afternoon slot, a similar distribution was seen. Whereas in the morning slot, we had only 1 question from numbers. Afternoon slot had 3. This slot had, I think, 3 or 4. I think there's a debate in terms of where do we classify, should we classify it in arithmetic or numbers. But net broadly similar number of questions from numbers in both the afternoon slot and the evening slot. Okay. So let's look at the topic-wise distribution here.
So questions that came from ratio, even though the concept was easy, the question was easy to solve, the concept was easy to understand and apply, but the numbers given were very, very complex. They were not so easy to calculate. So thus, this question, even though the concept was not that difficult, would be probably M+ level of difficulty.
So that reminds me, how were the kind of calculations required in this set? Were they heavy, meaning would those who practice speed maths, would they have had an advantage in this?
Definitely. Absolutely. For example, there were few questions which required you to calculate square roots. For example, there was a question like x square plus 1 by x square is 25, I think. Then find the value of something. So that particular question, if you're good with your calculations, mental calculations will definitely be helping you. That's just one example. Likewise, in this particular test, the depth of the numbers, the level of difficulty of the numbers itself was very high. So anyone who is good with calculations and all would definitely have an advantage over the others.
So folks, that emphasizes the importance of speed maths. And the thing with speed maths is that unlike a particular topic which you could, let's say, finish in a week and kind of become kind of an expert in that topic, you spend a complete week in a topic, you can kind of get to a certain level which you can say you are good at that. Speed maths doesn't work like that. You cannot overnight become an expert. Forget overnight, over week or over month, you will not become an expert on speed maths. It requires a lot of practice, similar to what is required in VRC. Whatever longest duration or preparation is required to increase your reading speed, a similar thing is required in speed maths to increase your speed of calculation. So do understand and realize the importance of speed maths, and particularly those who are watching this video keeping CAT 26 and beyond in mind. Speed maths, working on speed maths and working on your reading speed are two very, very essential long-term objectives that you need to have and follow up on them regularly. All right, let's
A small
go back
point
to
to
this.
add there.
Yeah.
Regarding speed maths, there was also some reports coming from some students that the calculator was not working properly.
Oh,
In the sense, if they are clicking on the number 3, it's getting clicked twice. Hardware
okay.
issue, some kind of. So that may happen with you. So that's one more reason why you should focus on
And
speed
even if
maths.
such an issue does not happen, it's a mouse-based calculator. It will take a lot of time. If you want to click, let's say 329, 329, you need to make 3 mouse movements, and that is going to be very, very slow. It will eat up your time. So you better therefore have speed maths as your protector. All right. So let's move on now to the overall summary. Tougher compared to the other slots. The third slot, quant, is clearly the toughest across the 3 slots. And obviously, there are topics that did not make an appearance, similar to what we have seen in the morning slot and the afternoon slot. But that doesn't mean that, again, we reiterate to make sure that tomorrow cat may change its colors. When I say tomorrow, the next year or the year after, cat may change its colors, and it may surprise you. So whatever topics you left out because they didn't appear recently may come back. That's what happened in BA. PFQs made a comeback. Numbers is making a comeback, right? There were 1 question in the morning slot, 3 questions in the afternoon slot. 1 question, if I think even last year, numbers was not, its presence was not felt significantly, right? But this year we've seen 3 slots from numbers. So do not neglect any topic just because you're not comfortable with it, right? Get to a basic level of expertise in all the topics, right? And time taking and unwieldy numbers and equations, which is exactly what Abhishek sir was explaining a couple of minutes ago. So please make sure that you work on your speed maths and significantly difficult compared to last year, right? CAT 23 quant was supposed to be the toughest in recent years. I think this would stand fairly very close to what happened in CAT 23 quant. Okay. All right. So let's now look at the cutoffs for the quant section. We have 85, 95, and 99 listed here. Just 5 questions, folks. 5 questions with decent accuracy would help you clear the cutoffs, right? Just 5 questions. And to get to 99, 11 questions. Half the paper would get you to 99. Half the paper, not even getting all of them right. Half the paper with good accuracy, 80, 85, 90% accuracy would be enough across 11 questions. So meaning somewhere around 9 questions right with 2 questions wrong should get you to 99, right? So that is how the quant went in the evening slot. Let's now quickly get an overall summary here. Let me get this back. More difficult compared to last year in at least 2 sections, DILR and quant. Overall number of attempts is definitely going to be lower than last year. Required number of attempts that you need to have to reach a certain percentile is definitely going to be lower than last year. And key to better performance would be obviously selecting the right questions, not wasting your time in the wrong questions, getting out of such questions as quickly as possible, making sure that you are not missing out on the easy and doable questions, which is what is the key aspect of the test taking strategy sessions that we do with you, that we try and keep driving with to all our students. All right. So now let's quickly look at a comparative analysis on the overall analysis first for all the 3 sections. Now for here we have 90, 95, and 89 and 99. For the sections we have 85 that we show because 85 is a sectional cutoff. But here these are the a lot more meaningful numbers from an overall percentile perspective. To get 99 percentile, you would need somewhere around 78 marks, which means you need to attempt around 31 to 32 questions, which is less than half the paper. Half the paper is 34 questions. You don't need to do even half the paper. 31 to 32 questions is what you need to do with a fairly good amount of accuracy. And to get to 90 percentile, which means to be in the top 10 percentile of the CAT takers, how many questions do you need to attempt? You need to attempt 18 questions, folks. 18 questions out of 68. See how low that is. 18 questions with a decent accuracy would get you to 90 percentile, right? So with that, you should understand that CAT is not a difficult exam. CAT is an exam which will give you 90 percentile with just 18 out of 68. Abhishek sir, please tell us what percentile is, what percent is 18 out of 68 is?
Probably around 25-30%.
One third of the paper.
Less than, yeah.
One third of the paper is what would get you around less than, around one third of the paper is what would get you up to 90 percentile. Now, many people say, I keep repeating this session after session, but I think it is worth repeating because people say 68 questions, 120 minutes, less than 2 minutes per question. Oh, CAT is so tough, right? But look at this. To get to 90 percentile, you need to attempt 18 questions. Okay, you discard all the tough questions. You spend your time, you focus on those 18 questions. So you have 120 minutes and you have 18 minutes per question. So how many minutes would that translate to? Right? Think about that. That's way, way, way higher than less than 2 minutes. So CAT is not a difficult exam. It needs a lot of hard work. Yes. Why does it need a lot of hard work? Because you need to beat the competition. You need not beat the syllabus. You need not beat the subject because you just need one third of the attempts, right? Get this correctly into your heads, particularly those who are watching this video for CAT 25, CAT 26 and beyond. All right. So now let's move on to the this is a summary of the QA, the overall paper. QA is significantly tougher. DILR was similar to the afternoon slot and a tad tougher than the morning slot. So now let's look at the comparative analysis in terms of looking at all the 3 sections this morning at the various percentile levels. Right? We see that in terms of cutoff levels, English is very similar between the morning and evening slots, whereas the afternoon slot seems to be slightly on the easier side. Now, again, there's not too much of a difference. The middle number here is 20, the middle number here is 21, and it's 20 back here again. So there's not much of a difference overall across slots in the VRC section. Whereas in the DILR section, 15 is the number here and it dropped to 12 and 12. So the afternoon slots became tougher. Some may argue that the evening slot is slightly more tougher than this. Possibly. Maybe the evening slot may end up at 11 and the afternoon slot may end up at 13. Right? That is how it could end up being. Then quant. 15 is the middle number here, 16 is the middle number here, and 10 is the middle number here. A clear and a drastic drop here. So that makes quant the monster, so to say, in this slot, in the evening slot, compared to the quant section in the other 2 slots. And therefore, subsequently, look at the drop in the overall numbers. We are showing a 95 percentile numbers here. 65 is the middle number here. 62 is the middle number here, and 52 is the middle number here, which means a drop of a good 10 points, right, at the 95 percentile level. So that overall makes the evening slot the toughest slot this year. Now, as we have been doing this all day, we have been getting inputs from students about the utility that the percentile estimator that we have available for the students. They are able to input their score, input their number of attempts and their expected accuracy, and they are able to get percentile estimates instantly, immediately. So use that, and to most importantly, to allay your fears about your performance, particularly those in the evening slot. You may have ended up with less number of attempts. Do not let that affect you. Take heart and understand that there are many others in the same slot sailing with you in the same boat, and there is normalization which is going to come to your rescue. Somebody else may have attempted more than you in the different slot, who you think is at the same level, and now you see yourself having attempted less number of questions. Do not worry about things like that. There is normalization which would kick in and ensure that your percentiles come out accurately, right? So instead of waiting to know what your percentiles are going to be till the CAT declares their results, you make sure that you get your motivation by understanding what your estimated percentiles are by using our percentile estimator tool, which is available on our CAT analyzer page, timeforeducation.com/CAT2025. Log in there, get in there, and get your estimated percentiles. Stay tuned to our Time for Cat YouTube channel. Like it, subscribe it, because there are a lot of useful live videos and other recorded videos that we're going to upload onto this channel, which are going to help you in your CAT journey in the coming 2-3 months, in your GDPI, GWPI journey. For those who are preparing for CAT 26, there are a host of inputs that we have lined up that are going to come your way. All right. So with that, we will. I think Abhishek sir has something else to say.
There is just a question from Vaibhav.
Okay.
So this is regarding how to prepare for quant. I'll just quickly address that.
Yeah.
So Vaibhav, just to answer your query, I understand that practice alone doesn't help. You are absolutely right in saying that. However, what I would suggest is practice is essential, but it should be followed by understanding the concepts. So you need to understand the concept first. For example, let's say if I talk about geometry, you understand what triangle is, what are their properties, what are the formulae, you understand that first, and then you practice. Now that way, with regular practice, consistent practice, things will improve. Definitely. Even doesn't really matter how twisted the questions are. As you write here, doesn't really matter because once you have your concepts right and practice right, you will definitely sail through. Okay, I hope it's clear. Yeah, thank you.
All right then. So with that, we have one more quick thing that we'll do now. I'll quickly show you how to access our percentile estimator tool on our website. You come to our CAT analysis page, which is timeforeducation.com/CAT2025, which will bring you to this page. And here we have our instant percentile estimator here. You click on this, you input your number of attempts here along with the expected number of corrects. Let's say you attempted 10 questions and you expect 6 of them or 8 of them or 4 of them to get right. So you put in your numbers and you log in, put in your numbers, and bam, you have your percentile estimation with you. All right. So make sure you use this very, very useful tool. And as I said, I repeat, particularly those in the third slot, take heart, use this tool to get your motivation. All right. So thank you folks for tuning in. And as I said, I repeat, subscribe and like our Time for Cat YouTube channel and make good use of our CAT analyzer page, timeforeducation.com/CAT2025. Thank you very much and all the best.